All right, guys, let's play a little game of hypothesis. We're going to be hypothetical. We're going to speculate. There is absolutely no indication that this is something that's swirling about. We just want to have a little fun. What am I talking about? Okay, let me get to it. We know that Toronto FC have officially bought out Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi. So we're just wondering if they were to make a move this year, what would that move be? When we look at the national team, we know some players are looking for some new places to play. Cyle Larin is one of them in particular who said that he's not happy where he currently is at Mallorca, wouldn't mind making a move in the summer. Dare I say, this is hypothetical speculation. We're having a little bit of fun here. If he makes a return to Major League Soccer, we know that's where it started, Orlando, before making his way to Turkey. So I just wonder, Ollie, if you think good idea, bad idea, if Toronto FC were to say, hey, Cyle Larin, want to be a Red?
I can think of some reasons why I think it's a bad idea, but I'll give some good things first, just for balance. Look, obviously he's a Canadian national team player. He will be in the World Cup squad, I think, almost certainly next year, and that has some appeal, I would think, for any MLS club wanting to kind of, include themselves in the World Cup and everything around that. Cyle Larin would score goals in Major League Soccer. I have no doubts in my mind about that. He's done it before. He's still playing at a very high level in La Liga. He's 30 years old, so I still think he's got good years in front of him. On field, it could be a success. I just don't know if it's the right fit at this time, particularly a year out from the World Cup. Firstly, from TFC's side, I don't really know at the minute what their kind of timeline is. Like, are they expecting to be competing again next year? Is this going to be more of a 2 or 3 year thing? If it's the latter, and I think that's probably more realistic, I think younger DPs makes sense. Not super young, but 25, 26, that kind of range, I think would probably be better for them. And then from Larin's side, like in a World Cup year where you are now playing for your place in the team with Promise David and Oluwaseyi and Jebison and all the rest competing with you, do you want to go to a bottom feeder MLS club to try and enhance your chances of starting for Canada at the World Cup? That just doesn't make a ton of sense to me on his part when he's currently playing in La Liga, albeit seemingly on the move this summer. So I have a lot of kind of question marks or red flags that I just don't think it's quite the right fit.
If the question is why would the move, why should he do the move, or is the move possible? The answer is no. Hell no. Do not do that. Okay, and I know
state your case.
No, and I know people nowadays. When I came back to Canada, I was 28, turning 29, and all of a sudden it was so funny. In Europe, in Denmark, I'm like now playing 150 games. Started at 23, playing pro. Everyone's like, you're in your prime. You come to North America, 30's around the corner. You're a vet, and I'm like, I understand in the CPL because you're playing with 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Like everywhere else, I'm like, now you've actually figured it out. You figured out how much to train, what your body needs. Yeah. You're in that zone. This is not the time for him to come back to MLS, let alone TFC. I am sorry. I know Cyle Larin right now is a big topic in international football. You look at, okay, we need to move on. Maybe you shouldn't start. I'm personally not in that camp. I think there's still a lot of use for him. I think, honestly, he can be a game changer, a difference maker if played right. But do not go to TFC. Ali kind of alluded to it and touched on the points. The reason being, I don't want to be a striker, and I don't know what type of service I'm getting. I don't know what type of football I'm going to be playing. I don't know where this club is moving. For a guy that's 30, who's still like big frame, 6'2", knows how to put the ball in the back of the net, for me, still has great movement, find a club in Europe. Europe is a big place. There's a lot
hold on a second. Is the question then throwing you off because I said TFC, or is it MLS?
Yes.
Like, would you still be okay?
MLS, a top team or a good team at MLS, I could see that move being something that he could maybe consider. But Toronto FC, if I'm in Larin's camp and I'm advising him, that's a hell no for me. No, exclamation point.
Are you on that same page when it comes to MLS? Because there probably would be some obstacles to overcome too for him, right, Ollie?
There was obviously the way he left MLS was very contentious, and I think there was some bad blood there between the league and his representation. So I don't know what the state of that is. I'd find it very hard to believe that they would, put up barriers to him potentially returning to MLS, especially as a Canadian national team player in a World Cup year. But I don't know what that kind of status quo is there. I agree with Jordan. Like a top MLS club is maybe a bit more appealing, but I still think he's going to want to play in Europe. Like there are other options for him, even if it's not La Liga. I'm sure he'd like to stay there if at a different club in Spain. But he's done well in Belgium. He's done well in Turkey. These are still good leagues, even if they're not the absolute top leagues, where I think he'll have options this offseason. And like, as much as last season wasn't the best for him and, isn't going to go down as the best season of his career by any stretch, he still scored 7 goals in one of the best leagues in the world. Like, it's not a complete flop. It's not nothing, to do that in La Liga. So I still think there'll be good options for him in Europe, and I'd be really surprised if he's coming back to North America.
Okay, I was going to say, are you a little concerned, Jordan, though, for Cyle Larin?
Yeah.
Where is he going to land? The playing time, the fact that, this is obviously, as a fan, you're excited about the competition. And you've mentioned some of those players who are going to push for that spot to be alongside Jonathan David. But is this pretty much a very crucial fork in the road here for Cyle Larin?
Yeah, I think so. I think for all the players, I think specifically all the strikers, but it seems like he probably has the most question marks, like outside of Jefferson, but Jefferson for me isn't at the top. So when I look at Promise David is coming back from scoring the most goals ever, and he's going to go and sign and play with the same team in the Belgian league. Like, he's going to feel good and confident. And who's going to partner with Jay David up top. So think about Cyle Larin. It's like, yes, that he's going to score. Ollie just said it in terms of 7 goals in La Liga, which isn't nothing. You're so right. But this is such a sensitive year. Like, you have to be fit. You have to be playing football. You have to be scoring goals. And ultimately, you're co-hosting a World Cup. So you want to go into that June, July window knowing that I've had a heck of a year and I'm able to contribute. So that's why even when you ask me about MLS, I'm like, I feel like that move is just a later move, maybe in 2 years. But European football, where he can play week in and week out, seems like the move for Larin. I don't know why he would consider something else.
You concerned, Ollie?
Not hugely, to be honest. Like, I think, I guess you could say yes, in the sense that, like, is he going to be starting as he has been for years for Canada in 2026? That's up for question. So I think you can say there's concern there on that front. But like I said, I just think, we got to remember that the player that a lot of people want to replace him, Promise David, is playing in Belgium. Like, that is a lower level than Cyle Larin is currently playing at. Larin could go to Belgium, to Turkey, to the Netherlands, to a level like that and probably score quite a few goals, I think, if he found the right fit in terms of club in that kind of league. So let's wait and see. But again, I still think there's going to be a desire on his part to stay in Europe and have another chapter there.
Wait and see. That's what we're going to do. Keep an eye on Cyle Larin. It is worth noting it's not exactly that easy to just say, hey, we'll sign you. Because if you remember, back in 2023, he did sign a 5-year extension with Mallorca. So he is under contract until 2028. So we'll see what team will be willing to take him on.